Hey, get out of my face!
She leaves. That's scary.
Hey! What the hell are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't want to do this anymore.
Welcome back to Movies Explained. Today's film is a thriller drama from 2024 titled Juror 2. The film begins with our lead, Justin, surprising his pregnant wife, Allison, with the nursery room he's just renovated. Subsequently, their friends show up for the baby shower.
I love you more than anything, and I'm so damn excited to keep building our lives together.
After which Allison joins Justin in the kitchen and finds out he's been summoned by the jury. The following morning, Justin sets out in his car towards the courtroom, where we see our second lead, Faith, talking to her campaign manager on the phone, revealing that she's running for the district attorney and is currently appearing in court to prosecute an accused murderer to score more votes. As she gets out of the car, she unknowingly drops her phone and walks away, but Justin helps her return it, for which she's thankful. Justin appears in the court, where all the jurors are gathered to see a video to remind them of their duties. Meanwhile, the accused felon's defendant greets Faith with a coffee. On their way to the courtroom, Faith lays down the punishments for the accused, James, but Eric believes his client isn't guilty and should go for trial. When everyone appears in front of the judge, including the accused, James, the judge asks the jurors if they have anything to disclose before the case begins. Justin requests that he doesn't want to do overtime because his wife is about to give birth. Next, Eric and Faith personally investigate the jurors to check their morals.
Have you ever had a physical altercation with a significant other?
How long have you lived in the area, Mr. Chakowski?
About 10 years with my wife.
Justin returns home and catches up with Allison right away. Meanwhile, Faith is seen delivering a hardcore speech about eliminating domestic abuse and violence once she's elected. She turns to the bar afterwards to catch up with Eric, which reveals they're both old friends. The next day, Faith gets to open the first statement, in which she discloses that James misbehaved with his girlfriend Kendall, and when she left after the fight, he killed her. That's when Justin realizes he was there that night too. While Eric defends James, Faith continues the story, in which Kendall walks out and gets all wet in the rain. James goes after her to stop her. Justin realizes he was in his car by that time. Kendall slaps James and pushes him away before leaving on her foot in the heavy rain. Justin has a flashback of that night in which he gets distracted by Allison's text and hitting something with his car. Faith shows the dead Kendall's picture at the crime scene and discloses she was killed by James and pushed off the bridge near the quarry road, whereas Justin remembers getting out of his car and seeing nothing but his banged up car. He believes he struck a deer by mistake and moves on. Faith and Eric end their statements against one another and dismiss the meeting. Justin goes to the bathroom and barfs, which a juror overhears. Afterwards, he joins his alcohol addiction meeting and stays late at the office, where he searches about vehicular homicide, which projects his guilt about him being the one hitting Kendall with his car.
Looking late?
Justin returns home and lays down his work details to Allison. In the next session, Faith brings out witnesses from the bar. The first one testifies that after the fight, she saw James go after Kendall.
What lines? I want you to say I love you. What lines are you talking about?
Hey, get out of my face!
She leaves. That's scary.
Hey! What the hell are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't want to do this anymore.
But Eric proves it wrong by getting the girl to admit she was drunk and didn't follow James all the way.
No. At that point, I had stopped filming and I went back inside.
Up next comes the bar owner, who claims she was approached by a panicky hiker. The hiker tells how he found Kendall's body during the hiking in his testimony.
To Old Quarry by the bridge in order to get back to the room.
Eric manages to prove that the trails are hard to hike and require special hiking boots, whereas Kendall was wearing heels, proven by her kill shot. The forensic man also testifies that the position Kendall was found in suggests that she was pushed over the bridge, and her cause of death shows that she was struck with a heavy instrument.
She landed in a posterior position, which suggests she was pushed as opposed to a fall. Rigor mortis indicated the victim had been dead for around 9 hours.
The final witness testifies that he saw a man get out of his car over the bridge to look around. Faith asks him to point out the man if he sees him in court. Justin nervously hides his face, knowing he's guilty, but the old witness points at James instead. The judge announces recess for the rest of the day. James approaches his alcohol sponsor Larry and confesses what he's caught up with. He plans on coming forward by admitting he was drunk and driving, but Larry suggests not coming forward, as he can be sentenced for 30 years. When the next court session arrives, Eric first asks questions from James, who confronts that he fought with Kendall because he didn't want to move in with her. Once things got heated, she left.
She kept telling her that I didn't think that I was ready.
We'll see. We'll see.
What do you mean we'll see?
I guess she just wasn't having it. She said I didn't love her.
He went after her, but remembered he had a newborn niece at home and returned home in his car. When Faith gets to question him, she makes him feel guilty for leaving his lover to walk alone down a narrow path during a thunderstorm. Eric and Faith take turns to request the jurors about coming to a just verdict. The jurors have a private meeting where everyone votes James as guilty except Justin. An old lady gets agitated by Justin, thinking his opinion will delay the case. But Justin reminds them James would never have come up front for a trial if he was guilty. He politely asks everyone to invest more time to reach a just verdict. When everyone sits together, they speak on facts and discuss the old man, who witnessed James with his own eyes. Outside, Faith is making scores in front of the media by promising to bring justice to Kendall. Justin is seen trying to convince everyone that the old man could have seen anybody that night, but everyone disagrees with him. An ex-detective, Howard, comes forward and uses his expertise to conclude that the old man could have seen anybody since it was dark and raining. When the subject turns to the blunt weapon Kendall was struck with, a woman theorizes it could have been a hit-and-run case, which Howard fixates on. The security guard intervenes and tells them to head home. On his way out, we see Howard asking someone for a favor on the phone and leaving. Scenes cut to Faith, who gets frustrated to hear from the guard that the verdict has been delayed. Now, Howard goes to the crime scene, not knowing Justin has followed him. Unfortunately, Justin's phone rings, which Harold hears and gets suspicious, so he notes all the cars parked nearby. Justin returns home late to his crying wife, who admits she can't go through with her pregnancy alone since she had a miscarriage last time. She asks Justin to speed up the verdict, but he believes in giving the accused a chance. Meanwhile, Faith sees Eric in a bar and discusses the case. The next day, he celebrates Halloween with his wife by giving out candies to the kids.
Oliver? Hey, Miss Kirsten. Hey, Mr. Kemp.
Congrats.
You Howard?
Hey, have fun tonight.
We will. Bye.
Keep
Bye.
it
When he shows up at the court the next morning, Howard confronts him outside the courtroom about him following Howard the previous day. Justin cleverly switches the subject to the law, which forbids the jurors to conduct their own research, but Howard believes he can use secret investigation to help solve the case. He shows Justin a thick document containing the information of all the cars from the day of the murder up until now that have stopped by the nearest repair shop owned by his friend. He thinks this will help them find the one who hit Kendall and ran with a banged-up car that certainly needed repair. He makes Justin nervous by asking if his car is also mentioned in the list, which they can cross off. Justin purposefully drops the documents to let the security guard find them. They are dragged to the judge, who refuses to let Eric use the information, dismisses Howard from the jury, and gives Justin another shot on the case, since he admits he had nothing to do with the research, which Howard confirms. Eric storms off in anger, while Harold approaches Faith and brings to her attention what he's discovered to prove she may be wrongly accusing James.
You got this case all wrong.
No way.
Like I did 5 autopsies that day.
Doesn't mean anything.
Faith begins giving it a consideration. While the jurors are seen asking so many questions about the misconduct from Justin that he ends up telling them Harold's discovery, While Faith opens her own private investigation and uses Harold's seized documents to narrow down a list of vehicles she thinks have the potential to hit Kendall, the jurors weave theories to solve the mystery. They conclude to a theory, which is actually the truth.
The right and left clavicle both show a very clean break.
She couldn't get that from the fall.
It's not likely. Both bones had to be broken by a single, sharp, posterior impact. Pow.
Now, Faith personally goes to the people she narrowed down from the list and crosses out the ones that she thinks are innocent. The jurors finally vote for a verdict and come to a tie, which makes the black people angry since they want to end the case and move on. But despite being guilty, Justin has hopes he will change the mind of the jurors to not find James guilty. A man fixates on proving James guilty because he's seen his neck tattoo, which confirms he is a part of a gang, which his younger brother got involved with and got himself killed. Justin debates for a long time with him and doesn't change his mind. Faith pays the old man a visit and discovers that he only pointed at James because he was asked to confirm him, whereas he has no clue about whom he saw. As Faith leaves with that information, the angry juror shows personal vendetta against James and refuses to give his verdict, which slows down others. Back to square one, everyone begins having doubts. The foreperson of the jury requests the judge to allow the jurors to observe the crime scene to help form the verdict, so she allows them to take a stroll without talking to anyone or engaging in collecting evidence. Meanwhile, Faith pays Allison a visit, since her vehicle was listed in the document too. When Faith interrogates her, she swears that her husband drove the car to another road and hit a deer, which Justin had earlier told her to tell if anyone shows up for interrogation. When Faith leaves, Allison realizes Justin is guilty. Currently, Justin joins Larry to discuss the case, in which he's working on turning the trial into a mistrial to save James. But Larry thinks the court would open the investigation again and won't stop until they find the actual killer. Hence, Justin must conclude his verdict accordingly. He then returns home, where Allison confronts him about the discovery. Before their argument turns into a fight, Justin confesses everything, revealing he was devastated about the miscarriage and went to the bar for a drink where everything happened. He breaks into tears and promises he will protect Allison and her child.
I'm not doing this alone.
No, you're not. You're not. You are not. I will protect our family. I will.
Faith joins Eric in the prison to privately talk to James, which gives Eric hopes that Faith is reevaluating her opinion. When Faith goes through the entire incident once again with James, she secretly has second thoughts.
The biggest regret of my life is that I didn't go after Kendall in my car that night. Because if I did, Kenny would still be alive.
Back in the court, the jurors are loaded in a court van and driven to the bar and the crime scene, where Justin keeps having little flashes of himself from that night. Out on the bridge, the angry man approaches him to tell him that even if James didn't do it, he left Kendall on her own to die, which makes him guilty in every way possible. When they all decide to return, Justin has a flashback in which he sees James's car making a turn back from the quarry road, confirming his innocence. In the final court hearing, the jurors hand over their verdict to the judge. It declares James guilty. The judge adjourns the case and calls for the sentence hearing tomorrow. Justin joins his wife, who gives birth to a healthy child at last. Justin almost sleeps in the nursery that night, but is woken up by police cars driving past his house. The next morning, he decides to go for the sentencing hearing since he's feeling guiltier than ever. The judge announces a life sentence for James without parole, which brings no happiness to Faith, despite she has won.
The murder of Kendall Carter was violent and senseless. The jury has found you guilty of that murder, for which this court sentences you as follows. Count 1, malice murder, life in prison without the possibility of parole.
She looks at Justin tearing up in the audience, which ticks her off. She immediately searches for Allison's husband on the phone and finds Justin's pictures. She approaches him outside the court, where he congratulates her for winning the elections. She talks about the case, during which Justin tries to convince her that the killer could have been someone else who is innocent, but done a horrendous mistake under different circumstances. Faith silently realizes he's guilty, but lets him leave. In her new office, Eric shows up with a plan to congratulate her, but she's not amused, knowing she didn't do justice. Meanwhile, Justin sells his car and returns home to his family, where Faith pays him a final visit. Here, the film ends. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps like that.